Recording in progress.
Okay.
Recording in progress. All right. Today is Wednesday, September the 25th, 2024, and this is the September meeting of the Municipal Advisory Council. My name is Lloyd Cowell. I am the chair. To my right is Dave Peterson. To my left is Adam Navickas, and to his left is Ruel Cook. We have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Before we get into the agenda items, we have a time that is set apart for citizens' comments. So if there's anybody here who would like to be heard on any topic not related to a specific application, now's your chance. So you know, raise your hand, stand up. Anybody? Hearing none. Let's move forward. Previously distributed a draft of the meeting notes from last month's meeting on August the 28th of 2024. Does anybody on the board have any questions about the form and the content of the meeting notes? No, I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Mr. Peterson. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Stating I was not present.
Ms. Cook is abstaining. We do have a quorum in order to consider the notes. So I think the vote is that. All right. Moving on to the items on the agenda. One note is that what's number 6 on the published agenda, which is 290 Coventry Road, at the request of the applicant, this application, at least for KMAX consideration, has been withdrawn and will not be considered tonight. So if you're here for 290 Coventry Road, we're not going to be talking about it at all, and you can stay if you want. You don't have to.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm abstaining from 0 alignment. If you pick 3 people, can you?
Yeah, I think
That's enough.
I think so. I think
Quorum's
yeah, because the board is 5. So
2 alternates.
and I think we have enough people. So we'll go ahead and here is what's 0, Willamette Avenue, which is a vacant lot, and their design has been revised, and tonight we are hearing the applicant's request for approval for a variance permit for a 4-foot front yard setback, where the required minimum is 20 feet, with a Kensington design review for a new 2,996 square foot single family residence on a vacant lot. The project also includes a tree permit, tree that was previously removed. So we want to take it away on the 0 Willamette Avenue.
I stand here.
Yeah, just so that the mic can pick you up, and if you like the camera also, if you're, if, you know, it's more important I think that you're heard rather than spoken.
Yes.
So I'll keep this short since we've all looked at it before.
Is this them?
Okay, you're seeing my screen? Yes, great. Okay, really quickly, this red outline is what we presented last time. And the issues back then were there was an objection to having the garage right at the property line in the front, the overall size of the project, view considerations from 255 Willamette, and view considerations from 144 Purdue. So the revised plan, again outlined in red, is a 2-car garage that's set back 4 feet from the street, open parking next to it, also set back, well, it's open, so the setback doesn't really mean anything, and a smaller house that is pulled back for view considerations from 255 Willamette, and also narrower for view considerations from 144 Purdue. But specifically, just want to talk about the garage. This is a sliced plan showing the 2 open parking spots in the garage. We had previously thought we needed to alter the sidewalk. We found a way not to have to do that by actually allowing the garage and the parking space to have a slope that mimics the street. So therefore, we're able to create a ramp just like the other houses have down the street, use the existing sidewalk, and then have a garage that actually has a slope for it. It's not something that I've done before, but we looked into it and it's possible. We have to allow for a 1/4 inch per foot. It's actually a carbon monoxide requirement inside of garages to allow carbon monoxide that's heavier than air to roll out of the garage. But we managed to do that with these crickets, and yet the overall garage floor is sort of sloped. So that allows us to not mess with the sidewalk at all, use the existing slope. It may have to be repaired as construction is done, but the existing sidewalk stays as it is. This also represents the 4-foot setback, and our precedent is 287 Willamette that has a 3'9" setback of its current garage. Other than that, just as before, we have tried to keep the hillside fabric of mixing architecture with foliage. Our project is represented here. Well, I should point with the pointer, shouldn't I? Here and here. These are views looking up and down the street, and then a front-on view is represented here. So the garage, the open parking space, a front yard, the house structure, which has planters built into it, and a lot of this foliage you see on the side is actually existing. The foliage in the middle is what we hope to add as the project is built. I don't think I have anything more to say than that. I'll just leave it open for questions later on or now.
I have a question. On the setback, the 4-foot setback, 27-1, I know the house you're talking about, they rarely ever park a car in there. Obviously they could. Is there a reason why you wouldn't push it back further?
Only because we're eating into a hill.
Just again, it's a thoroughfare for children, and I'm 2 houses away. I'm 8 feet back. Larry's next to me, and he's 7.5. 8 feet's not really enough. I almost had a kid before, and then now I have to creep out really slow. So just it's probably not a precedent you want to precedent, even though the precedent exists. I don't know that that's the best precedent to follow.
It's not so much a following of a precedent, it's as these things go, if it exists, someone has it and therefore one has some kind of right to it. I agree that having parking on that steeper slope is difficult. But 2 mitigating things. One is cars have backup cameras, which is great. But it's also it's also quite simple nowadays to add a very small camera with a large screen in the garage for very little money. Which I think could be something that's easily installed, so that you can actually see from the wide angle camera at the garage on a screen as you back up. I too back up off of the hill, and I gotta slow down and look carefully.
Questions for Zero Willamette? All right, so let's go ahead and throw it open to members of the public. Are there people who would like to be heard on the application that's in front of us right now? Zero Willamette? Anybody? You, sir, why don't you step on up so we can hear you on the recording and tell us what you got.
So my name is Anthony Knight. I live at 234 Willamette, which is 3 or 4 houses down from the proposed project. And I had some serious concerns about this project, some of which I voiced at the last meeting, and I do acknowledge the work that's been done by the architect and the applicant to meet some of those basic concerns. But there are some still remaining. The one that occurs to me as considerably important and not having been discussed is safety, particularly fire safety. And that may surprise you, but this project will require a considerable amount of excavation into the hillside. A lot of unloading and loading, unloading particularly of materials, and is likely to take months and months, if not years. It's so large that it's going to have a considerable impact on the traffic of Willamette, which is a very narrow street. 2 cars cannot pass on Willamette if there's a parked car on the side. And in spite of that, it's a major corridor connecting Kenyon and Purdue, an east-west corridor. And in terms of emergency, it's something that residents rely on. And I cringe when I think of the disruption that's going to be caused on this narrow street by this ongoing and extensive construction effort, particularly on red flag days when residents are asked to stay home and not get out on the streets to have construction going on. Now, we have an emergency preparedness committee here in Kensington. It meets regularly under the auspices of the Kensington Fire Department. Has regular public meetings, as does the Kensington Fire Department itself. And I wrote to both the chairman of this committee and also to the fire chief, pointing out the concerns that I've just expressed. I got a letter back from the Emergency Preparedness Committee saying something like, "Oh, we weren't aware of this."
Can I pause you just for 1 second? Because I know that there's a number of people who probably want to talk. And so
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everybody.
I didn't realize there was a restriction. You didn't announce that.
No, I just want to make sure, because like, so I want to respect everybody's time.
Sure. Okay,
But
well,
there's certain things that we're able to review in terms of a build and other things that we're not. And
there were certain things, what?
that we're able to review as part of a build, and
Yeah.
certain things that just aren't in our purview.
Yes.
And some of the things that you're raising are not in our purview.
I was going to tie them in
Okay.
quite firmly.
Okay.
What I think is that the Kensington Fire Department and the Emergency Preparedness Committee need to be made more aware of this project, and that their voice needs to be heard. They should be here, in my opinion, this evening to address the exact things that I've been talking about. And in the case that this project is approved, that there should be some restrictions put on it. The restrictions being, for instance, that construction on red flag days not be allowed. And since they're not here, and since this is sort of a newly raised point, I'd like to ask for a continuance of the consideration this evening to the next meeting, when I can certainly approach them and get them to think about this a little more carefully. If they're not interested and think it's not an issue, well, fine. Then my concern is not important.
Okay,
So that's it. I'd like a continuance.
okay. Thank you. I have a couple questions.
Yes.
First of all,
To me,
yes, okay, you'd have to agree, would you not, that every house on Willamette is accessible from two directions, from the east and from the west.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you claim that the excavation would take months and years. I don't know, how long would it take to dig that up, do you think?
Say 3 months.
Okay,
How long, what is your answer?
3 months.
And what is your name?
David Peterson.
Oh, okay.
And
Mr.
what is your
Peterson.
name once again?
Anthony Knight. I just
Nice to
want to
meet
know who,
Nice to meet
who
you.
I'm going to quote, right, when I hear it, so. Two directions, all right, yes, I know where you're going with this.
I'm not
But-
going, oh, hang
well,
on, just a
okay.
second, all right, I'm not going anywhere with it, I just,
Okay.
yeah, it's true that if a construction truck turned over and caught on fire in the middle of Willamette, it'd be possible to go around and get to any address that was blocked by it, isn't that right?
A fire truck,
No, a truck, that dumped its load, turned over and caught on fire in the middle of Willamette. Emergency crews would be able to approach from both the west and the east in order to address that
what we're
situation.
talking about evacuation in case of wildfire. Of
Okay,
a stream of traffic that has to go through the whole way, and of course, they can try for other streets which may be equally blocked, but that's kind of a back corridor. It needs to be open all the way through.
I still have to stress that, like, we're dealing with a variance in terms of the build and like some of the things that you're bringing up. Not that they're bad points, it's just something that we can't make a decision on because it's not in our purview.
You, I believe, can put restrictions. You can approve with restrictions, can you not?
not with respect to, the specifics of how the construction is moved forward. We often recommend restrictions on designs and have done that in the past, but the concerns that you're raising here relate to the construction. I mean, surely you're not suggesting that the owners of this valuable piece of real estate should be barred from conducting any obstruction.
On,
That word, construction, I'm sorry.
on red flag days, yes, and I'm not suggesting, by the way, that you have the authority to apply those restrictions. But what you do have the authority is to recommend to is it the planning commission where this goes? To recommend to them that you recommend you have these concerns and you want them taken into account. That's what I'm asking.
And,
Okay.
and I think it's understandable that you'd want that, and I think it's understandable that a number of people throughout Kensington on narrow streets and whatnot would want something similar. I do think that's something that is, more in line with the fire protection district as well as the county. And so like, I wouldn't feel comfortable as a member of this committee guiding how builds are allowed to be done. That's a very big expansion of what we're allowed to do. So like, that's why I'm saying that if you're asking for a continuance based on how things are built, like, I think that's not something that I would personally feel comfortable with.
Okay, and I'm agreeing partially with you, but what I'm saying is there's a voice missing here this evening. And it's of a concern to a large number of the residents of Willamette. And that's what happens in case of an emergency with all of this construction ongoing for extended periods of time. And like I say, I think you can make recommendations. You can recognize the concern to the county and you can make recommendations. And I think this conversation is not finished, just on the basis of who's in the room this evening.
All right, so you did notify the police, the
Fire,
fire chief
yes.
and the head of the fire safety committee.
Yeah.
When was that? When did you notify them?
Today.
All right.
Is that
Okay.
too soon or too late?
I don't know. I'm just asking you when the communication took place. Did either of them express an interest in attending tonight?
The emergency preparedness coordinator, his name is Johnny Valenzuela. He wrote me back and basically said he wasn't aware of these concerns, and he forwarded the letter to the chief, which I had already done.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have some other people that want to be heard on this.
Certainly, thank you for
Let's-
letting me speak.
All right, who's next? Yep. Come on down.
Hey everyone, I'm Arvind Singh from 144 Purdue, and last time you probably remember I voiced a lot of different concerns about the design of the house from our perspective. But from my perspective, the new design mitigates parking, building size, bulk scale, and to some degree the sidewalk safety. Hopefully, the things that you suggested to a great degree. And we believe that the new design has some potential impacts regarding glare, view, and privacy, but we've been able to work with Jasmine, Don, Jean, and architect to over the past week to kind of mitigate those concerns, and we're really appreciative of that. I think last time, I think it was you, kind of said, hey, you're gonna need some compromises here, and I think we're able to achieve that, at least again, from our perspective, so. Really appreciate everything that's been done to make that happen, particularly getting the story poles up and certified. That was a big thing for us, because, with our angle, like inches matter, and so, if the story poles off a little bit, it actually makes a pretty, meaningful impact in our view, and so getting those certified today was really helpful. So we're happy to support the current design, and I just wanted to add to one thing. When I was talking to, I think it was Jasmine, about some of the concerns around fire safety, one of them had mentioned that there's some plans on the lot to kind of mitigate some of those concerns, and I think it's probably worth hearing those. So I don't know if you are planning on sharing that stuff, but some of the parking stuff you mentioned to kind of keep traffic off the street, I think it's worth sharing some of that stuff. And just one thing to add to you, it'd be nice if things would be coordinated to not happen to close streets at the same time as EBMUD. Because when they're doing their construction, if we've got Willamette closed during then, there are days where we would not be able to get out. So that's kind of the only thing for me. And it was actually pretty scary. It was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was like a little fire in Tilden, like 3 firefighting planes came in, they took it out quickly, but we got one alert and I didn't really know what was happening past that. And EBMUD was out there that day, and I'm like, should we leave now? So that's kind of just my one thing on fire safety is to just make sure that not more than one street is closed at a time.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Great, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anybody else? Come on up.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Williams, and I'll be one of the residents here. And I just wanted to address the things that you were saying. We should work with the fire department and get their input through this whole process. Also, what Jasmine designed is that outdoor parking area where we could use the stage. So once we get that settled, then we shouldn't obstruct the traffic too much more after that. And then we're open, it's like, we want to consider everybody, we want this to go smooth, we want to live there too. We have 4 kids, backing up is an issue for us too. We live in a house now that has 0 setback, and we take care. Jasmine's points were good though, I think we will, make the investment and take extra precautions, because the kids are most important. And any way we can help, we're here, we're approachable. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, anybody else? Okay. Come on up.
One else?
Actually, my wife, who is joining online, has my slides. Is that okay? She's.
That's absolutely fine. Just make sure you're close enough
Okay.
to the webcam to get picked up.
Let me stop sharing.
All right, so you live on Willamette somewhere?
255.
Okay. All right, please proceed.
So, hey, Jiawen, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me fine? Hello?
So my wife is joining online and she will present first. I'll use the rest of her slides to present my points.
Okay,
Thanks.
please proceed.
Hi, my
And you
name
can
is.
share.
Okay, I'll share my screen first. All right. My name is Jia Wen. I'm a resident of 255 Willamette Avenue. Sorry, I cannot be there in person due to a class. First of all, we acknowledge all the efforts of the revision of the design. So I think it's much better than last time. However, it still has significant impacts on our house, and that cannot be ignored. So I agree with all the comments that have been said, but due to the time issue, I will focus on the impact of 255 Willamette Avenue. So here is a picture showing our dining room and the kitchen. And then our living room is on this side. So just for record, we only have windows on this side. So then,
Sorry, enlarge the photos,
oh, let me see.
presentation mode.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so if we look at the kitchen window, you will see it's actually, well, you can see the story post and the horizontal marks there. So it's almost totally blocked. So if the building is there, our kitchen will be like just totally dark. And here I have a video. And you're welcome to stopping by to see how disastrous it is to our house. See, actually the horizontal mark there is over. Oops, keep going. And then move to the dining room. So like 3/4 of the window will be blocked. So I measured like how close it is to our facade. It's actually 11 feet. So I don't think I have seen any two houses in Kensington that are only 11 feet apart. And there are plenty of space on the other side and also on the back. So I don't know why it has to be so close to our house. Then is our master bedroom. So this photo was taken on the bed, is where I slept every night. Yeah, so it's quite disturbing. And then on the other side, it's better, but still. Yeah, so there are actually other problems, but due to the time, I'm only showing like these three are concerning us the most. And I think what I pointed out are like very basic things. Also, the construction itself is problematic in terms of environmental impact, emergency evacuation, fire prevention, etc. So I will stop here and hand over the rest to my husband, Han Qing.
Hey, my name is Han Qing Zhao. Is it okay if I look at my notes?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Han Qing Zhao. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I live at 255 Willamette Avenue with my wife, Jalen, adjacent to the proposed project on the east. We moved in during the pandemic, so it's the first time seeing some of the neighbors. Nice to meet you all. As my wife said, we saw the drawings and we saw the posts, and we want to say that we see the improvement and we appreciate the effort. However, it does not change the fact that the design still has a significant impact on our basic living conditions. Unfortunately, I have to say no to this proposal, and I want to say that the fact itself is beyond any comparison and relative improvement. In addition to this obvious blockage showing the photos, I want to use a few slides to discuss the side setbacks condition and as an example to argue that obvious design alternatives could be considered before moving forward. Okay, so first slide here, we can see there is a 10 feet setback on the drawing from the west, adjacent to Larry's house, and there's only 5 feet from our side, which restrict this wall-to-wall distance to, as my wife said, about 10 to 11 feet between the proposed project to my house. As reiterated, most of our windows are on this wall. What's more, if we zoom in, can you click to the next slide? If we zoom in, the lower floor plan has another 10 feet setback from the setback line. So there's a 20 feet of room from the fence, and there's a room for the deck and the landscape, etc. So in other words, I mean, those things are design elements. The wood patio, they are exterior and they are fairly close to the ground. And in other words, they are not blocking anything. It is the building itself that stands as the extruding and obscuring object that blocks the sunlight and exposed to the privacy problem. Can you go to the next slide? And the upper floor intensifies that situation. there's another 13 to 15 setback, 13 to 15 feet setback from the lower floor. So in total, there is a 35 feet distance from the upper floor to the fence on the west. And at the same height on our side, there is only 5 feet from the constant wall. In this slide, you can see how, can you go to the next slide, please? So this slide is much more clear that you can see how the interior floor in proportion to the lot and its geographic relation to my property on the east. So I understand why those design decisions are made. I'm more than familiar with the design languages as a landscape designer myself. With the current design, the owner will have a better bay-facing view, better light, better privacy, which are somehow exactly what we would partially lose based on this design. And it's a bit unfair that to take that away from us. So the current residents, I think the current residents, me and other community members, are as important as the new members. And I believe there are alternative design solutions, and the owner has a great architecture team to work with. So I think with better collaboration, we can develop something better. Such as lowered building, deeper excavation, and the shifting on the locations, just to name a few. Ultimately, it may come to the size and the volume again. I know that's challenging. For example, pushing back the front setback means more excavation and means more expensive. But the condition was right there when the lot was purchased. So the challenges should be acknowledged at the very beginning. And on the other hand, just talking about the excavation at the front, it might give you a little bit more room for construction preparation, which perhaps won't block the traffic that much during the construction. And just to name a few reasons that came to my mind. And assuming the construction work cannot start until early next summer, I think we have enough time to revise the design and mitigate the rest of the concerns for me and the rest of the community. So I want to summarize that we see the improvement, we really appreciate the effort, and we understand where all those came from, and we understand we want to proceed this project as soon as possible with fewer meetings. But our basic needs in light, view, and privacy, and those are some of the most intrinsic values and the reasons we chose Kensington as our home. Those are still significantly impacted. And I can ask anyone to be in my shoes. If the photos are not sufficient enough, I want to invite the committee members, our neighbors, current and the new neighbors, to stop by and see the impact yourself. And you understand that those are very basic needs rather than just us being ridiculous. Last but not the least, moving forward, I really hope a better coordination between me and the architect, between me and the new owner, to ensure a smooth process, because until this point, I only spoke with the architect and then not anybody else. So I don't see the reason that we should rushing this to a solution today with those contradictions we still have. So unfortunately, I have to say no personally with my wife at this point today, but I think we can make it work. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I have a question though.
Yes.
Your property is 5 feet away from the property line, it's inside the building.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. And you're actually within the 9-foot setback as far as to the south, closer to the street, right?
Yeah, to the south, that's not my concern. It's mainly what's on the west, right?
Right, well, I understand. I'm just saying that as far as being placed in a lot, I mean, you're already in a situation where, you're right on the setback line and your house is moved forward towards the street relative to the design that's being proposed here.
Well, that's the condition we moved in with. That's the.
Okay, thanks very much. Anybody else have questions? Anybody else want to be heard, before we, move forward? Okay, I have a question for you, which is, why not move it? I mean, first of all, would it make any difference if you moved the bulk of the house to the west?
So a couple of things.
Away from
Yeah.
this gentleman?
No, there are some reasons that the house is where it is, obviously. One is that the Kensington code is combined total 15-foot setback on two sides. It makes much more sense to put the stairs on the west side because the lot is actually less steep on the left. So there's less excavation. And the way we figured it, we've kept the stair excavation to not have any more than a 3-foot difference between existing grade and stair. And the reason for that is beyond 3 feet, we need foundations. And it would be better for us not to put foundations near a property line, which is to say the property line in the west. Anshling is absolutely right that if we were to have open space in a design, we would want it biased toward the west. And so the stair combined with the open space it leads us to want to put the 10-foot setback on the west side rather than the 5-foot side, or rather than the east side, which is Anshling's side.
Yeah.
I've been to the house just last Thursday, and I see it. I see that the windows they have in the middle of the lot are going to have a house in front of it. Those windows are also very low to the ground relative to the topography. And I don't know what we could put that wouldn't block a view out of that window. I think it's amazing that you've had two facades that are open, but in designing anything for the lot, those low to the ground, such far back windows are going to be compromised.
Yeah, and you have to acknowledge that we're being asked to recommend approval for a plan that will basically have two houses that are 10 feet apart. It's not possible to combine, or let's assume, which we don't know, that if we move the house to, it was 5 feet away from the western property line, the views that you have shown us are going to be impacted anyway, right?
I mean, like with the building in this currently empty lot, I think anything will cause an impact. It's just about how we can minimize that.
Right.
So I think there are design alternatives we could consider, right?
Well, let's ask our architect. But are there alternatives that could be implemented that would go towards mitigating the next door neighbor's concern? You have to admit that of all of the people who are impacted by this project, that this couple is the one party that is most affected more than almost anybody else.
Yeah. Look, when we started design, we tested the stair on both sides. It was pretty clear that the west side is where the stair needed to go for the reasons of excavation and steepness.
Can I add something from that?
Yeah, please.
You did, so I'm one of the residents, or future residents. of the house.
We're gonna come to the front so people on the Zoom can hear.
Yeah, because if this goes to the county, they're going to use, things that we discussed here, in making their own decision. So if you got something you want to say, we're on the very inexpensive
okay.
webcam, so.
Okay,
speak up.
so I'm one of the future residents, and my name is Jasmine, and I think one thing that maybe we can add to this is that we actually made the effort to free the front window, which was talked about in the last meeting most, and that is totally free now. So, just as far as compromise goes, maybe, there was an effort to free that up, and the rest I will leave to the more professional landscape artists. But
Thank you.
that's it. Thank you.
So Yeah, sorry to interrupt. So we're not asking to like free up totally all the windows. We don't think that's possible. But it's now very tall and very close. If it's close but lower, I think that's fine. Or it's far away and it's as tall as it is now, that's also fine, right? Now it's like building a big chunky wall just on the only side we have windows. I just don't think that makes sense.
It's not the only side though. You have huge windows to the south.
Alright.
And those are those are the primary view. And when we come across this a lot when in this area of the world, nowhere else, but in the Bay Area. We follow codes that say, do not obstruct the major view from major spaces, which I think our design does in that most of them is to the south. There is view to the east. You've seen it in the photographs, I'm not denying it at all. You know, how far, what that compromises, I think it's up to KMAC to tell us, quite frankly, because it's, you know, like I say, these windows are low to the ground. They are right there. Could I move the house 2 feet? Probably without much. I would have to relook at it. We looked at trying to push it around after we saw Answering on Thursday. And all of the reasons that we have it where it is, including the amount of excavation, how deep the excavation is at the back, came back at us. It's like, oh, right, that's why we did that. That's why we did that. And the list is long. These designs don't happen. So, you know, without a lot of balancing of variables and putting them together. So
I don't think that, while sometimes we try and participate in discussion with the different parties to help see if there's a way for them to work together to do a design, we're not gonna offer design alternatives
Of course.
ourselves, right?
yeah,
What I'll say is that, I guess where we are at this point is that we just need to know, if you will, as the owners, whether you want us to consider the design as is, or whether you want to spend a little bit more time with your next door neighbors to continue design. It's your call. Like, if you want it, like, you presented a lot today, we can make a decision on it, you know, today, or you can say, all right, I see what you're saying. Let's see we'll spend a little bit longer figuring it out. It's your call.
I guess my question is, it's not clear to me that the guidelines of Kensington tell us what we're supposed to protect and what we're not supposed to protect of a neighbor's view, right? If you have a house that has 4 windows on the side on a vacant lot, obviously the owners will have expected that to be their view forever. But if anything goes on that side, that view is blocked.
I think
Right, it's not any major view though, because the major view is to the south and from the corner
I
window.
think from a view standpoint, that's probably not what we would normally consider in the view, but in terms of bulk, which is a lot of what this is what they're saying is bulk. They're putting a huge monolith right next to their house. So it's like, so they're saying view, but it's light, it's everything that has to do with having a building right next to your house that wasn't there before. So it's falls under bulk as far as this board would consider.
And that's what you're considering.
It's like you're not blocking the Golden Gate Bridge or San Francisco or something
Yeah.
like that. 'Cause in that case, you would be correct.
Susan?
Yeah, we got other things to get to, but
Yeah,
please,
it's a very
go
good
ahead.
point to respond to your concern that we were talking about the objectivity of or the aesthetic preference of the view.
Yeah.
And you were arguing that we have the south view, so it's okay to use the west facing view. I mean, we are in the Bay Area and we're on the west coast, and the least thing we can have, if not the sunrise and sunset. So I think the thing that happening in the afternoon is equally or more important than what I can have from my south window. And I just don't think that's unreasonable required to ask. So west facing windows are important.
Understood. Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right, so is it the applicant's desire for the board to issue their recommendation? Or
Sorry, I didn't, you didn't see my hand, but
Sorry.
I'll be brief. I'm Larry Downs, and I'm at 245 Willamette, which is the house directly below the lot. And I only briefly wanted to add that I also appreciated the many coordination and collaboration with this new design. I think if you remember at the last meeting, my concerns were particularly about bulk relative to the lot and height, and especially what was going on with the sidewalk and the steps. And from my standpoint, those concerns have been mitigated in this current version of the design.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so what's your pleasure?
Can I have a minute to talk to my clients? It's kind of not up to me.
I would, yeah,
Literally.
okay.
Please, thank you.
So we're gonna talk about 258 Amherst next, so be ready.
We're not starting yet.
Not yet.
Just one quick procedural question. If you were to vote and you did not recommend it, do we just come back next time with another design? Does it change from the continuance?
I think it goes back to the planning department at that point, with a recommendation not to approve. And then you might be stuck with submitting a new application, and there's a fee involved with that. So.
Okay, they want to have a vote, I think.
You want us to go ahead? All right. Okay. So we'll go ahead and close the public discussion. Please make yourself comfortable. And even though this is technically a closed session, where the board will stay here and we'll talk about it. Adam's already said that he's going to abstain. So what do you think?
I think that Kensington is a pretty tight community already. I think that, you know, many houses are pretty tight fits. I think that anything that's gonna be built on that lot is going to have an impact in some way, shape, or form around the neighbors. It seems that a lot of accommodation has been made to address many of them. I do know one neighbor is definitely still impacted. I would, judging by the applicant's ability to make some modifications and can continue to find ways to work together on that, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't allow this to proceed.
Well, this is a tough one.
Welcome to responsibility.
I mean, I appreciate that the applicant has been really collaborative with a lot of the concerns that were brought up at the previous meeting about this and responded to those concerns in, I think, really great way. So I think that's really it was great to see that. You know, I do, and I live very close to my neighbors. We're all sort of in this position together, and we'll hear more about how close tonight also on the additional at the Amherst property. But you know,
Well, you know, that's fine. I would ask Dave, what do you think?
Well, I think they did a very nice job of revising the plans. And, you know, the neighbor in question appreciates that as well. I think the plans as they are very good. I would encourage them to see if they could move the house 2 feet further away from the neighbor in question.
Do you think it would make a difference?
I think 2 feet would make a big difference. I'm sure it wouldn't make enough difference for the neighbor, but at least it's a step in the right direction. Allowing more light in. 2 feet can be considerable, but that's not my job is to recommend things. I'm just saying, I think it would be a nice gesture. And as to the gentleman's consideration about red flag days, I think that's certainly a very valid consideration, and I'm sure the contractor would be on board with something like that, or at least he'd give a serious ear to listening to that kind of suggestion. I think it only makes sense for all parties involved.
So if approved, do you think that we should attach some sort of formal condition to that?
I don't.
but how about we make a note? Note would be great. And so, and based on your years of experience as a contractor in Kensington, do you think that it would be possible to make this move 2 feet to the west without significantly impacting the proposed design in terms of deck and stairs or something?
I don't think it's gonna be insignificant, no.
It's going to make,
It'll be a significant effort on both of it, on everybody's part. It'll be an effort.
and so you're sticking by your 3-month estimate for excavation?
That was just excavation for the foundations. I'm not talking about
Well, not the whole
trucks for the whole construction. And that's a, you know, if there's a contractor out there that's excavating for more than 3 months, he's gonna lose his shirt. But that's just my opinion.
Like, can I say something?
Sure, yeah.
And, I mean, aren't, like, I think you brought this up earlier, but aren't we looking at like the variance? Like.
Yeah.
Permit
Yeah.
review or approval, which is 3 different conditions that have to be met in order for us to approve that, and I just wanna bring it back to the fact that. That's what we're here to.
Right, and
Discuss.
to that point, I remember the last meeting we had discussing this, we wanted to move it 4 feet back from the sidewalk. And we wanted them to have the neighbor's big window and an obstructed view from looking toward the west,
Southwest.
southwest, northwest, whatever it is.
West.
I remember that was part of our conversation at the last
Yeah, it was.
meeting.
Yeah, but Ruel's correct in that there are legal standards for applying the variance that would have to be met. I think that obviously there are other homes in that street with similar setbacks. There's no way that a off-street parking could be added to this location without the variance, unless it was so far back, and we've already talked about expenses related to excavation. Ultimately, I think that the conditions are met to provide for the variance. The applicant wants us to proceed with a recommendation based on the design review and also the variance. As I said at the last meeting, the tree is not really something that we can do anything about at this point, and I don't think, at least for me, it's not going to make any difference in my ultimate decision. Anybody else have thoughts, follow-up thoughts? Anybody want to make a motion? Yeah,
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of 23-03009 Willamette Avenue.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the board is going to recommend by 4-0 vote that this application be approved as presented. To parties who are interested in this particular project, what happens now is that it goes back to the county planning department. You can express your concerns and oppositions and recommendations at that level. There's also an appeals process that ultimately ends up in front of the Board of Supervisors, although that might take a little bit before they can add that to their agenda. So thank you all very much for participating and for attending the meeting. And that concludes the matter. So now we're going to move on to 258 Amherst Avenue.
Hi there, good to see you all. I am the designer of the project and also the owner, Marjan. She's in person at the meeting site. I couldn't make it in person. but I'm gonna give you a brief presentation of our project. I will share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay, so this my client Marjan, she bought this property almost 3 years ago because this property, besides it gives her a feeling of the house, and also it has significant view of the Bay Area from the west side of the property, which I can show to you here. The reason we asked for variance because she would like to have the opportunity to use outdoor area as well as indoors, and add more value to her quality of life, which, you know, when you live in Kensington, one of the reasons people go to Kensington beside the beautiful neighborhood and safety, everything, all of another reason is to use that view. So while the existing building, so on the lower level, there is a deck, but it's actually it's on like landscape, and it's there's no view there. It's blocked by the fence and the property, the next door property building. So she would like to add a balcony on her main floor, which is same level of the street of Amherst. And also it's in fact it's her living area. So yeah, as you can see the existing, sorry, can someone, yeah, go ahead, sorry, I can't hear you well. Yeah, go ahead.
Since there's no change to the plan since we last reviewed it last month.
No,
right?
no. So I just thought maybe they're a new member. Yeah, there's no change on the floor plans, and I'm. Okay.
Yeah, we visited both the site where the application is at 258. We also visited 260 Amherst, and we're able to view potential impacts from inside the neighbor's home. So if there aren't any changes to the design, you know, we did go over all of that last month. So if you wanted to go over all of it again, it's your right, but I don't think it's necessary.
Your call, so sure. I can stop here and we can hand it to you, and the owner, she's there. Sure. Okay. Do you want me to stop sharing, or do you may need to see floor plans?
Yeah, that's a nice picture. All right. Right, we came to visit,
Thank you for coming.
yeah, thank you for opening your
After
home
work
to us.
early.
And we did take a look. So, and if I recall correctly, you had expressed to me that you didn't think that it was going to work as far as trying, one of the suggestions was, what if you were to shift the balcony to the north? And would that help? And you said from a design point of view, and from a mitigation point of view, it didn't work because you didn't think that it would make a difference.
Yeah, it will, and I think from viewpoint of view, it's not gonna make a big difference in how Donald's view is going to be. And I think the gentleman from the last project, the architect, was bringing up a really good point. He was saying that their duty is to make sure that the main view is not blocked. So Donna's main view is toward the west, which is, and she has beautiful big windows. I love her house. She has a lot of nice light in it, and she has a small window from her kitchen that's facing that way. And she expressed to me that she likes to look at the trees on the other side and just watch the birds every now and then. I personally haven't seen her much of the window, but I know I'm not home all the time, and she's there doing her cooking or something, so she's definitely watching. But looking at it, especially because we try to make it out of glass, so it doesn't interfere much with her viewing. It's not much in her face if it's the metal rating. I really don't see from the angle when I was at her home, and she has nicely really organized. She has those blue tapes up. I couldn't tell much difference in the view than the top of the tree that she would be seeing. So I really don't think that this is a big impact on her view. And I want her to be happy, but I want to be happy too. I want to be able to have a nice balcony. Looking at the homes around me, I see besides the gentleman on the right side of the house, who's also planning to get a balcony next year, and is also here actually with us, and so everybody else has a nice balcony, and I would like to have that too. So and I'm just trying to make it as nice as possible for Donna to not be in her face and not, interfere much with her. I would like to have a good neighbor, so. And I'd like to continue with that.
Does anybody have questions for that?
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned that you don't think shifting it will help. But does it hurt you?
Does it hurt me?
Does it impact the design, the way you enjoy balcony?
Yeah, well, the one thing that changes is, the plans have to be changed, and then the way Donna was recommending it, that it goes all the way to the bedroom, and I get a door for the bedroom. So that would be another permit, and I don't really think that would be necessary, because I don't know, I don't see it as.
May I add something? If we shift the balcony toward north, so the privacy of the master bedroom gonna affect, which the place we locate, we propose the balcony, it doesn't affect on the master bathroom's window, but if we move it forward north, so it's gonna be, it's gonna affect on the privacy. And so also on the side of the property, we are, we follow the setback rules, and we are really aware that we have really, in the corner of the building, we are almost 16 feet from the property line, which means it's almost more than 20 feet from the neighbor's building. And also at the corner of the balcony, the proposed balcony, we are more than 17.5 feet away from the property line. And so the variance we ask is in fact for the west side of the setback. And beside the privacy for the master bedroom, we don't think, there is a, we are in between this setback requirement, way behind that. I'm not the between, we follow the setback requirement on the west property side.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Is Bob here?
Yeah.
So, since we heard from you at the last meeting, it's okay to give the executive summary of your position.
Okay, I appreciate you coming to the house, and I mean, everyone has seen it. And for me, moving it just a few feet makes a big difference. You had fog yesterday, but we get sunsets through that angle. We even get sun in the bedroom's closet when the sun is setting far to the north, like it is now. The last week I've been opening the closet door to get the sun in, but it just moving it a few feet would make a big difference for me. And one of an issue, because that's the view of North Bay and Mount Tamalpais from the kitchen and the front bed, the first bedroom next to it. Whatever happens on the deck I will be hearing it in my kitchen. And as I said, when you were visiting, we're both very quiet people. And but there, that is going to be an adjustment. So I don't know how you to recommend what your recommendations will be for this.
I want you to look at your own balcony and how close it is to the neighbor's balcony, neighbor's house.
That,
It is,
well, you're, that's a totally
Alright.
different issue.
Okay, everyone, address their comments,
Yeah.
to the board, please.
That's just.
It's understood, but you can tell us what you're gonna say,
Okay,
but, we're trying to keep, orderly fashion.
Because that, I mean, when we get to 262, the issues are going to be really heated. Because there have been no permits on that property at all. And
That's not what we're talking about today.
So-
We're just gonna talk about.
so-
Big trouble in
Yeah.
Amherst Avenue. it
Yeah.
sounds like.
sandwich of construction.
I'm just having with this problem, not just this.
So-
Okay, all right, we understand, and I think we understand pretty clearly, the nature and extent of your objections, based on the presentation that you made. Thank you for opening your home to us and allowing us to visit to see for ourselves. And I think we have pretty much as much information as we.
Yeah, thank you.
Unless there's somebody else on Zoom that wants to speak to it.
Anybody else want to talk about 258 Amherst? Please do. We love you. Go on. All right. Are you sure? Do you know which one?
I don't know, I'm just,
Oh,
I know, I just see there's still some people on, so I just wanted to make sure.
Always watch.
We always give them an option, you know?
All right, anybody else on, online who has not been heard from, wish to be heard on 258 Amherst? Going once, going twice. All right, so we're gonna close the meeting. You may make yourselves comfortable. You can stand there if you want, you don't have to. While we talk about this project at 258 Amherst Road. So development plan and the variance permit. The only thing I'll say at the outset is that the rear of 258 Amherst, the property line is really truncated, because it's not quite in the worst pinch point, but it starts where Amherst is starting to angle down towards Arlington Avenue. It seems like every other house on the block has some kind of a deck sticking out the back, at least at 260 and 262, big decks looking west. It's a choice prime view.
I think it's just to, Bro, what you said before, looking at what our obligation is from a variance perspective,
We're
it's
not
like.
giving any special privilege that
Yeah.
isn't given to other property owners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, while I think that on the lower level, there seems to be, it's not as nice to look at the lower deck, the underside of the deck, but still, I don't see the impact from a light or bulk perspective at this point. The fact that it's glass, there's not an obstruction of view in that direction necessarily, or light. Am I missing anything in terms of?
Well, I know that Donna had expressed some concerns about glare from reflected light if the sun was in a certain position, that would like shine into the windows on the north side of her house. I don't know. I don't think it's the bulk. I mean, it's about as least amount of bulk as you could possibly hang on the back of that house, and wedge it in. You know, it's not really. Back of that lot, it's just straight.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think, Dave? You saw it all. You've seen it all. I agree with it. I agree with you. What do you got?
I think a great compromise would have been to shift the deck, to start where the current plan of the door is, because it would alleviate some of the concerns. Having said that, I to the earlier point, it's not the primary view. And to be consistent with how I personally voted in the past and how I think this board has voted in the past. I don't think the view impacts are strong enough to justify not approving the project as is. So like, I think my feeling is, despite the fact there is some impact, it's reasonable. And I think, you know, other people have similar situations and this is in line with that.
And it sounds like reasonable accommodations have been made to be respectful of the view that is impacted just by making it a glass balcony. That seems like, I missed the last meeting that this was presented, but it seems like that was a compromise that has been.
Yeah, the applicant had said that she originally wanted a metal railing for the balcony, similar to what's in place already.
So I think, I mean, I think that helps, and I'm sure there's things that can be done with material to reduce glare and other impacts.
Yeah, it might be neighborly to put something on the south facing side of the glass to
Coating or
frosting or something low key in order to be able to preserve the lightness and the feel of the balcony without just, you know, imposing this glare situation at certain times of the year.
Well, isn't there a planter box there? On the south side of the balcony?
Well, and then
There,
Yeah, that's a planter.
no, no glass on that side.
No glass.
all right.
And the planter box appears to be below the window there, so it would be about 32 inches, whereas the glass railing has to be 42 inches.
But I mean, planters could come and go, right? There's no requirement for the owner to keep that there as part of our process. So like, we could
Right, but
ask
it is
for
on the
it.
plan.
Yeah,
It is on the plan.
yeah.
And what if we, you know, instead, oh, you can't do this project unless you move it, you know, with a new plan and the expensive design or what have you, to the north. My perception of, and I'm not necessarily correct, but my perception was that even if you assume that the deck is not going to start in for a few more feet and it is shifted to the north, I don't think that it eliminates all of the concerns. It's still going to be there. You can still see it from most of the windows in the house. And so I don't know that if I would support imposing any sort of condition or change in the design.
Ready to make a motion.
You're full of motions. All right, then make a motion.
Motion to recommend approval of 24-03035-258 Amherst Avenue.
All right, if Anne-Marie, a second.
I'll second.
All right, so we're voting that the legal requirements for the granting of a variance permit have been met, and we are also recommending approval of the Kensington development plan for the addition of this deck as the plans show. All those in favor? Any opposed? No. All right, so we will recommend approval of the project at 258 Amherst and send this matter back to the Contra Costa County Planning Department for further action. All right, thank you very much for coming.
Yep.
This concludes 258 Amherst. As mentioned at the top of the meeting, 290 Coventry Road, which is on the posted meeting agenda, is off. And moving on to 1623 Oakview Avenue. The applicant requests approval of a variance permit for a 10-foot front setback where there's a 20-foot minimum. And a Kensington design review to allow a new approximately 145 square foot uncovered deck above the garage and driveway of the existing residence. There is no change to the gross floor area. Is the applicant here for 1623 Oakview Avenue?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're on the air.
All right, thank you. We're here. We had already been approved a while back for this exact property and variance request. And I'm sorry to have to bring it back to you, but unfortunately we made an error in our placement of the property line on the plans. And during construction, the field inspector told us that we had to have a surveyor's letter stating that the deck was built according to the plans, and the surveyors found that the property line was about 2 feet different from where we had placed it on our previous plans and previous application. So unfortunately, we're back here tonight to again ask for approval for this. We have it partially constructed. I don't know if you've gone by and taken a look. But, you know, it's really just the property line. Nothing else has changed. The relationship of the deck, the size of the deck, the relationship of the deck to the house has not changed. The relationship of the deck to the sidewalk has not changed. Nothing's changed except, in effect, the invisible property line that is 2 feet different. We made an error. I relied on a older plan set for the property line placement, which was a mistake on my part. So we really are back here to ask you to reapprove the project. You know, at our expense, you know, we're having to do it twice, which is unfortunate. So I don't know if there are questions you have for me, but I would say nothing has really materially changed on the ground. And nothing is materially different to any passersby from what we had previously approved. So I'd ask for your, you know, approval tonight based on the fact that nothing's really changed in the sense that, you know, we had been approved, that it wasn't deemed to be um, a, a detriment to anyone before. The neighbors have not objected. Every passersby all say, "Oh, great, looks great, love it." My clients are very happy with it. So I don't know what else to say except, you know, here we are. And it's, you know, we need to get, the project is basically on hold while we're waiting to get this resolved. And then get the surveyor letter that will satisfy the building inspector that will say that the project is in conformance with the plans as approved. And the planner said that it would the planner insisted that we come back to you for approval for the variance. Again, because the approval was based on the setback before, but that was really not part of the discussion at all. It wasn't really a question of where the setback was. It was really just a question of putting the deck over the driveway. So,
I don't think you're able to hear us, are you?
yes, I can now.
Please pause, thank you.
So thank you.
Thanks.
Which property line was determined to be an error in the necessitating the reconsideration?
Just the very front property line. The actual property line is about 2 feet closer to the house than we had anticipated. The side setback is exactly where we thought it was. There's no encroachment on the side. It's exactly 3 feet, and the deck is laid out. It is exactly like slightly over 3 feet from the side, the east side.
So it's just the front setback and.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another person who had their hand up to speak. Ma'am, are you wanting to be heard on this project?
No, I'm here with Ian McLeod, yeah.
Okay. All right, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on 1623 Oakview? Yes. All right, so we've received correspondence from Claire Wildman, I'm not sure the pronunciation, who lives at 1625 Oakview Avenue. She wrote a letter. Dear KMET, I'm writing again in support of the proposed project at 1623 Oakview Avenue, as I'm unable to attend the hearing tomorrow night. I first wrote in support of this project almost exactly 2 years ago in September 2022, and my feelings on the project's value to our neighbors and the neighborhood are unchanged. Simply put, this is a lovely addition to our next door neighbor's home, and we're happy to see them enjoying the sun on their porch as my husband, 3 young boys, and I come and go. If you'll pardon the comment, my husband and I were pretty surprised that this project needed to go through KMEC a second time. We're both engineers familiar with deviations in the field compared to construction plans. As currently built, the project aligns with what we had imagined when we first saw the plans and discussed with our neighbors. We are not privy to the details that require this additional, review step, but suffice to say the construction delay is more disruptive to us than the final balcony will ever be. She's all in. So we hope that you're able to review and approve this project quickly tomorrow night. Best regards, Claire Wildman. Thank you, Claire. I know that's a good one. I'll send this to you. You can have it. The second letter is from Ralph Layton and Phoebe Kwan. whose address is 258 Calusa Avenue in Kensington. Hello, my wife and I are unable to participate in the meeting either in person or by Zoom, but we would like to be on record as fully supporting the applicant's requests. We have visited the property and spoken with the applicant, and her requests appear entirely reasonable. Thank you for your consideration, Ralph Layton and Phoebe Kwan. All right, so those are two letters that we received in support. That's that. Is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this project?
Ian does.
Yeah, just to note that Claire Wildman is the neighbor immediately to the east whose driveway is right there and sees the deck every day. So, you know.
So the deck is on the side of the lot that's closest to that.
Yes,
property.
closest to the deck. Yeah, they're the immediate next door neighbors. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I do appreciate their comments. Thank you.
All right, unless anybody else has something to say, we're going to go ahead and close public discussion, and we'll have a talk amongst yourselves. So.
I'll go. I remember approving this project a few years ago. It was, I watched it every Sunday as I walked to the farmer's market and seen it come up, and I think this is an easy one to just consider for approval.
Yeah, I think if the property line was, cutting through the deck at that point, then there would be a problem, but I don't think that's what we're confronted with.
I agree.
Okay.
I will make, I'm gonna steal your motion.
Oh, me.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve 24-01043, 1623 OP Avenue.
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the board will recommend approval of this renewed application, and hopefully you'll be able to move forward without further delay and get everything.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks. Sorry for having to take up more of your time.
Thank you. We like doing this.
At least it was pretty easy. Okay. All right. No conflict here. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody who joined us online.
I make a motion to adjourn. Can I?
All right, wow, clear as a day here.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 8:22. Yes, fine. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for your volunteer service to our community.